Here. Thank you. Will Commission Public please join me for the pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's take 1 and 2 together tonight. It is the application for TriStar Development. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Mr. Bowman is recused. Yes. So we'll hear the call for number 1 and number 2, please.
Number 1, application for modification of approval of interchange special development project on behalf of Route 10 Fuel and Market Incorporated. Applicant TriStar Development LLC and Miller Napolitano Wolf LLC. Owner. Applicant is requesting a modification to the gas station and convenience store and drive-through for the property located at 1953 Highland Ave, Assessors Map 4, Lot 13, Zone IC, SDD. 2, application for modification of a special permit on behalf of Route 10 Fuel and Market Incorporated. Applicant TriStar Development LLC and Miller Napolitano Wolf LLC. Owner. Applicant is requesting a modification to the gas station with convenience store and drive-through for the property located at 1953 Highland Ave, Assessors Map 4, Lot 13, Zone IC, SDD.
Thank you. Welcome back, Mr. Fazone. You haven't been here for
I
a couple
have
meetings.
on vacation.
Yeah, nice.
For the record, my name is Anthony Fazone. I'm an attorney with offices here in the town of Cheshire. And as the call of the meeting says, this is an application for modification of an existing approval. The site was approved as a gas station with a convenience store on March 13th of this year. A gas station with convenience store is a use allowed under the special regulations that created this interchange special development district. With that, I'm going to call on Darren Overton from SLR to go over what the changes to the approvals are.
Good evening, Darren Overton from SLR Consulting. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, here on behalf of the applicant. I have a few plans. Start with the old site plan, the one that was previously approved, and just run through for the commission what has changed. There's not a whole lot that's changed, but the basics are that the applicant has upsized the building slightly. So this is an overall plan that we had presented previously with the commission showing the development lots on Route 10. So Route 10 is at the bottom of the page. North is towards me to the right. What we're here for tonight for is Lot 1 over here. It's a 2.3 acre parcel that's proposed for a convenience store, which is consistent with what was approved as part of the master plan. So this is the plan that was presented previously. We've shifted and rotated the plan. So north is straight up on this. Route 10 is along the right side of the page. And what we had was approved was a convenience store centered in the middle of the lot. We had gas pumps out in front on the north side, and then over on the west side, we had a couple of diesel pumps. So I'll flip the page to the proposed rendering, and you'll see it's relatively similar. We still have a building centered on the lot. We still have the pumps out front for gas, and we still have the pumps over on the west side for the diesel pumps. So what's changed? Easiest way to describe what's changed is I put together a plan that shows basically the new layout that was on that rendering with the red layout of the old building. So the building got larger. We increased the size of the building from what was proposed previously of 4,725 square feet to 6,325 square feet. And if you can see the relationship here, essentially the building is roughly the same length, but it got wider to accommodate that square footage. We shifted it forward. And part of the reason why we did that is because there's also a reconfiguration of those pumps in the front. If you notice, the previous pump configuration was 3 double stacked pumps, and this is changed to 5 single pumps. Gave us more room to relocate and accommodate that wider building. The diesel pump changed slightly. Instead of having 2 separate single-sided pumps, there's going to be 1 double-sided pump located there. We also actually Although we didn't need to add parking, the previous plan had 35 parking spaces. Based on my calculation, according to the regulations, what we've increased here is the retail space from 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, which is the upsizing of the building. The planned secondary use is still about the same square footage. So I've estimated that we need 30 parking spaces here. The previous plan had 35 as approved. This one has 56. As part of adding those additional spaces, which are really located along the back of the building or the south side, we've added one more handicap accessible space in the front of the building, and we've maintained the 6 planned EV charging spaces over here down in the southeast part of the property. Other than that, not much has really changed for the plan. We've essentially shifted the building around in the middle of what is, it's an island in the middle of the pavement with access still circulating around the building. And one change to the building, the drive-through was previously facing Route 10 on the east side. That's shifted to the south side of the building and back. We still can accommodate a 9-car stack in that drive-through lane. Just trying to see if there's anything else I'm missing here. So I think that covers all the changes. The stormwater management is the same. There's really no change in the impervious cover that's proposed. There's no change in the erosion and sediment control plan that was on here. That's all basically perimeter control. So that functions the same way as before. So if you have any questions at this point, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Signage changed, or is that the same as before? Look at the building, looks the same.
I do have the updated elevations, which is essentially the style of the architecture is the same. It's got a low stone veneer on the bottom. It's got what's the cementitious clapboard on the sides, similar roofing, similar gable structures with the change in the color palette. It's meant to tie in with the rest of the development, similar to the retail on Lot 5. So no real change in the theme for the architecture, just some
There's no
shifting of
like new
access.
big lit up signs or anything like that being put on it. It's the same as what we we're told before.
No plan change in the signage that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Nothing that we've presented to be changed.
Mr. Salma.
You changed the drive-through instead of it being adjacent to Route 10, it's now on the south side, which is nice. That when it queues or stacks up, is it going to be blocking the diesel pumps, or is there any issues it might cause on that side there?
If cars were to stack beyond the 9-car stack here, they'd probably start to stack out towards the entrance drive here.
And that's the only entrance exit. Well, there's an exit only drive-through around the other side there.
So this is a right turn only exit out. This is a full access in and out. And people could also come around here and park in a parking space and wait for the queue to go down also. They could circulate right back around and get into
Or
the queue.
go inside. instead
Or
of
go inside, right.
Right. And there's no chance of the queue backing up Route 10 or there's no curb cut in Route 10. So it's going to be contained to the side road anyways.
Yes.
Did like fire department look at this at all? Is there any changes to, the circulation in the building for that?
Yeah. This was reviewed by the fire department. They did not have any issues with this.
Mr. Tesco.
So how much bigger is the building going to be?
So it goes from 4,725 square feet to 6,325 square feet.
Michael, isn't that a little bit different than what we had in our packet?
Yeah, I had a different square footage from the approval. It was 5929 for the original approval. That may also include storage. That may be your difference.
Or is that a gross versus finished?
Yeah. And then I had 6325 with just a small increase from the two.
Yeah, I took the 4725 from my old notes. That may have been a finished space. The 6325 is a gross off of the architecture.
Can I just ask, what is the, we have a drive-through. What's going to be picked up at a drive-through? I've never seen one at a convenience store before.
So the drive-through is associated with a planned accessory use in the building, not the convenience store. It could be a coffee shop, it could be donut shop, it could be something else.
Oh, so there could be a Dunkin' Donuts, for example?
It's expected to be a coffee shop type of use. That's why the drive-through is
All
there.
right. Thank you.
Mr. Natale? So by moving the drive-through, you're losing, what, 4 cars in the queue?
I think we had 13 before, right? 9 now.
And before it backs up onto, I gotta learn this. Is it Stonegate Court? Is that the street?
Stonebridge Court.
Stonebridge
yes.
Court, thank you. Before it backs up on there, how many more cars can you fit between there and the 9 in the queue?
Before they get out onto Stonebridge Court, I'm estimating 6.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner members? No? Anyone from the public wishing to comment on this? Sense a no. All comments are in. There's nothing, no reason to keep this open.
No reason to keep it open.
Okay. If you're all, is Ms. Fazon, were you all set? You are? Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to close public hearing then. Thanks. All right, number 3, special permit on behalf of Sandbank RE Holdings LLC, requesting special permit pursuant to section 30.27 and 30.6A for truck driving school property located at 160 Sandbank Road. Can we hear that call, please?
Number 3, application for special permit on behalf of Sandbank RE Holdings LLC, applicant and owner. Applicant is requesting a special permit pursuant to section 30.27 and 30.60A for a truck driving school at the property located at 160 Sandbank Road, Assessors Map 27, Lot 134, Zone I-1.
Thank you. And representing the applicant tonight?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. For the record, I'm David Fault with the Bizzuto's, Director of Design and Construction, representing Sandbank RE Holdings LLC for the special permit change of use application for the property at 160 Sandbank Road in an I-1 zone. With me tonight is Jim Gregario, also with Bizzuto's. He's directly involved with the operation of the school. This parcel at 160 Sandbank Road was formerly used as the Clippings Hair Salon, a contractor's yard and equipment storage, and also a tractor trailer staging yard. The contractor's storage and equipment portion will remain. The salon portion of the existing building will be used as the classroom for the school with minor interior alterations. No site plan changes to the building. The rear portion of the lot will be used for the driver testing area, which will be set up with traffic cones, and they're set in specific patterns to do maneuvers for testing. Changes to the site plan are the painting of additional parking lots for student and teacher parking. These were shown on the proposed plan here and then along the building.
That microphone, you could pick it up and bring it with you if you need.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. So currently, Bizzuto's provides training for its drivers as on-the-job training. We're looking to get accreditation with the state of Connecticut to get a program where we can actually bring in students and actually have them tested and licensed with DOT licensing. Should they pass their licensing, they'll have job opportunities with Bizzuto's, and all the testings administered by DOT officials. The school will have approximately 8 employees, up to 20 students per session. Each session will be 8 weeks and will operate Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Students will receive classroom training, simulator training, and on-the-road instruction. On-the-road instruction will occur after the students have acquired necessary learner's permit and accompanied by trained instructors. The equipment is owned by Bizzuto's, and with that, I'll open it to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner members?
Straightforward.
Yeah, very. Mr. Salmo.
Well, perhaps it's a question for somebody else, but the back of the lot, what's there now? Because I'm trying to remember which building that is.
So this was the Clippings Hair Salon. So if you're coming up Sandbank Road,
It's kind of diagonal across from the school bus depot there.
that's exactly right. Yep.
So okay. What's in the back of the lot there now?
So the back of the lot was used for tractor trailer storage and staging. It backs up to the site, which is Atlantic Star, and the
Okay.
equipment was moved back and forth.
that all getting cleared out.
Yeah, it looks like the aerial photo looks like you got a mess back there.
Yeah, that picture is probably from
Yeah.
2015, or it was an older picture.
That aerial's from 2019, so it's an old picture.
Okay. I'm glad to see you're improving the area.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
We are too.
Mr. Janusko.
Just for the record, I very briefly drove into the backyard, and drove back out.
Yep.
How often are trucks going to be leaving the property for training to like drive around Route 10 and stuff? Because I know there's been accidents with Bizzuto's trucks and other trucks pulling out on, what is it, industrial or whatever
Sure.
the line is there.
Yep. How, Jim?
Good evening. How are you? I'm Jim Gregorio. I'm the recruiting for the transportation department at Bizzuto's. As far as the truck traffic, at this point with the flow of students we're expecting, DOT tries to provide about 3 tests per day. So we expect that we can test 3 days out of the week. So it'll be 9 tests a week to start. They can't actually use the road until they're permitted. So they'd have to go through the full course. So I would expect in the beginning, probably 9 tests per week. Now they go out with a licensed instructor to do any of their practicing. And then when they do actual DOT testing, they go out with a licensed DOT instructor.
That's 9 per student, or there's 9 trips?
9 per week to start. Yeah.
So there's no, and I think this is what you're referring, there's no live, okay, let's go out on the road and drive around and practice. It's all in the yard?
Yeah, there's 1 per week once they receive their permitting. And then
Okay.
we do have plans to have them. Once you set this up, DOT has a strict guideline that you have to use state roads and state highways only. So the only road we would be using would be Sandbank. They'd be going left on Sandbank onto Route 10 to 691, and then to either 91 or to 84, and then they'd make the loop and come back to 691, either using 91 or 84 on the different loops. You have to set up 2 to 3 separate courses so that DOT can kind of mix it up. If they, this way one student isn't telling the other, okay, I just went this way, here's what to expect. So they will have different routes to use, but it'll all be on state highways as far as that's concerned.
Is Sandbank a state road or a town road?
That's a town.
Town road.
So, I mean, if you come off 691 just from the truck sitting there in the summer in the heat, it's trashed. So now those trucks are going to sit at that light and going to trash Sandbank, because I'm sure Sandbank's not built as well as Route 10. What's going to happen with that intersection there, and who takes care of that when it gets destroyed?
I would actually suggest you take a right out of there and go over to Industrial Avenue and use the light, because there's no light at the Sandbank entrance onto Route 10.
Yeah, you'll sit there forever,
You'll be there trying to take a left out of there. It would be a
and you will sink that
long
road.
wait.
Yeah, we hadn't come up with that yet. Yeah, we hadn't come up with that. We could work that into our plans. Yeah.
That's also where the Bizzuto trucks are coming out of there now, as it is, right by the
No.
daycare there.
We have and we have a
That's
rear
industrial.
access
It's
to our
industrial, yeah.
our fleet department, which takes us out to industrial. So that's a possibility as well.
I have a pickup truck. I have trouble pulling on a Sandbank. So
Yeah.
53-foot tractor trailer, forget about it.
That's a
And the school bus,
possibility.
go ask the school bus depot how much fun they have pulling out of there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could go currently where Fleet is set up. Fleet has an entrance on Sandbank and an entrance on Industrial. So we could go into Fleet, go through Fleet, and then take a right on Industrial and use that light currently. So that
Yeah.
would work fine.
And to their point, that, and Michael, you would know better than anybody else. Those roads there, when you get off 691, man, there's some deep crevices there where the trucks are sitting with the weight. Granted, I'm assuming that the trucks that you practice with aren't going to be fully loaded.
They're empty. Yeah, they'll be empty.
But
That's still the trailer, the tractor that's doing that.
right, but from Sandbank to Industrial, any bollards or any corners that could get taken out. Let's face it; these are people learning how to drive. So, I don't want to see the sign for the trail has been knocked over there for a while. I don't know if there's anything that needs to be reinforced or built up to accommodate those trucks. I want to see you guys operate and run, but it's got to be, good for everybody.
Mr. Natalia, sorry.
I agree with everything that was said. I do like your idea of going through the yard and going out into industrial, but for a different reason too. So when they do the testing and they do the training, what hours they can be doing that? Is it scattered throughout the day?
Well, with DMV tests every 3 hours. So they pay their people to show up and have one test at say 9, another at 12, and then say another at like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or so. So they only try to do 3 per officer.
Okay.
So we would finish well before 4 o'clock in the afternoon with our last test.
My concern is just the school buses. So if you do use Sandbank, like Mr. Mercado said, the school buses have a heck of a time making a left out of Sandbank.
How to go on to
And with the additional traffic possibly from trucks during the school hours, could mess that area up a little bit. So again, I'll go back to what I said. I do like the idea that you said about going through the yard and going out into industrial.
Absolutely. It's about 300 yards, 200 yards for us to go from the lot to the entrance to the fleet department. Yeah, that would work. Yeah. We could do that.
Mr. Bowman.
Having had a place on Sandbank Road since 1960, I don't see any problem with this whatsoever. We own a series of buildings on Sandbank Road and Industrial Avenue. And the traffic that they're talking about, taking a right, which makes a lot of sense, coming out and taking a right on Sandbank and a right onto Industrial I don't see it causing any problem whatsoever. As long as it's not done at between 7 and 9 in the morning when the buses are leaving, and I doubt that they're going to do that because they're going to want to be as efficient as possible too, and they're not going to want to tie their trucks up while the buses are coming or going. So
Believe it
I
or
don't
not,
really see a big problem here.
And believe it or not, the DMV allows for weekend testing. So if it's something that is more convenient for the city and the bus schedule and the current traffic situation, we could actually schedule tests for Saturdays and Sundays. That's a possibility too.
Okay, any other commission members?
I see no harm in it.
Nope. Okay, public, anyone from the public wishing to speak on this? Okay, no. Another quick one, and if you guys are all set, I'm gonna close the public hearing.
We're all set. Thank you.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing. Moved by Mr. Kaderis, second by Mr. Selma. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes from the public hearing and regular meeting from 6/26/2023? Move Mr. Mercado, second by Mr. Natale. Discussion, anything, corrections, anything on the minutes? Mr. Bowen's going to recuse himself from the vote. Everyone else, okay? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And any other than Mr. Bowman abstaining? Okay, so 9. The motion carries 801. Okay. Everybody comfortable with, do we want to just vote first? We'll do the votes if everyone's comfortable, and then we can go into the discussion part. So people don't have to hang around a little bit. I'm gonna do that. So is everyone comfortable with the what we heard tonight? Mr. Bowman is not going to do it, but it seems like a pretty minor change, and I'm comfortable in voting tonight as long as everybody else is. Can we hear the motion for that, please?
Motion to approve application for modification of approval of interchange special development project on behalf of Route 10 Fuel Market Incorporated applicant, TriStar Development LLC, Miller Napolitano Wolf LLC owner. Applicants requesting modification to the gas station and convenience store and drive-through for the property located at 1953 Highland Avenue, Assessors Map 4, Lot 13, Zone ICSDD. Commission finds that based on documents provided, the applicant has demonstrated compliance with the Cheshire zoning regulations.
Move Mr. Natale, second by Mr. Kaderis. Discussion on the motion? Very minor change as far as I'm concerned, so I think everybody feels the same way. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Next one, please.
Motion to approve application for a modification of special permit on behalf of Route 10 Fuel Market Incorporated applicant, TriStar Development LLC, and Miller Napolitano Wolf LLC owner. Applicant is requesting modification to the gas station, convenience store, and drive-through for the property located at 1953 Highland Avenue, Assessors Map 4, Lot 13, Zone ICSDD. The commission finds that based on the documents provided, the applicant has demonstrated compliance with the Cheshire zoning regulations. The approval is subject to the following conditions. One, the building design and architecture is based on the plans titled Stonebridge Crossing, Highland Avenue, Route 10 and 691, Cheshire, Connecticut, prepared by Phase Zero Design with a revision date of June 19th, 2023. Two, the site development is based on plans titled Proposed Gas Station Convenience Store, Stonebridge Crossing, Lot 1, prepared by SLR with a revision date of June 20th, 2023. Three, final plan shall incorporate the following. The island of the entrance will need to be low mountable design or pavement markings to be approved by the fire chief. B, show crosswalk ramps at Stonebridge Court and Route 10 intersection. C, add no left-hand turn signs to the eastern exit of the site. D, clarify whether Coltech Cascade CS4 or Contech CDS 2025-C will be used at the site. E, provide hoods on all the catch basins. F, added following note, all work to be completed in accordance with all permits, approvals issued by local, state, and/or federal reviewing agencies. All work shall be performed in accordance with the standards of the town of Cheshire and applicable state codes. 4, fire lane markings and signage will be installed in areas to be determined by the fire chief. 5, accessible emergency power shutoffs will be provided and clearly marked for the electric vehicle charging stations. Final design to be approved by the fire chief. 6, heights of the canopies will need to be tall enough to accommodate truck traffic. 7, a fire department approved key box will need to be installed and maintained at the location approved by the fire chief or his designee. 8, applicant is to provide Cheshire Engineering Department copies of CT DOT state encroachment permit for any work within the state right-of-way. Said permit is provided before work within state right-of-way is to commence. And 9, the Planning and Zoning Commission authorized staff to approve minor modifications, site grading, landscaping, drainage, or lighting on behalf. Said requests are to be made in writing to staff prior to implementation.
Move Mr. Vitale, second by Mr. Kaderis. Discussion on the motion? All these conditions, were they on the original one?
They
Is that
were on
why
the
they're-
original, they just carried over. I want to make sure that they weren't lost in the shuffle between the two applications.
Nothing. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. And we have one more for Bazzuto's.
Motion
Or,
to
sorry, Sandbank RE Holdings.
Motion to approve an application for special permit on behalf of Sandbank RE Holdings LLC applicant owner. Applicant is requesting special permit pursuant to section 3027 and 3060A for a truck driving school at the property located at 160 Sandbank Road, Assessors Map 27, Lot 134, Zone I1. The commission finds that based on the documents provided, the applicant has demonstrated compliance with the Cheshire zoning regulations. The approval is based on plans titled Sandbank RE Holdings LLC, 160 Sandbank Road, Cheshire, Connecticut, prepared by Dymar with a revision date of June 12th, 2023.
Second?
Move Mr. Dawson, seconded by Mr. Tedisco. Discussion on this motion? Yeah. Mr. Tyler?
I just want to say thank you for continuing to invest in Cheshire. I was on vacation. I came back. I saw with the Riscos investing in Cheshire, investing in Cheshire. So keep coming. Thank you.
Mr. Crowe?
Can we just put in the motion about not taking a left on Sandbank? Either go right or out that other.
I wouldn't put that in there. They're not going to do it. You're not going to,
Okay.
why restrict them and not restrict anyone else? It doesn't
It
make
is
any
a-
sense
it's
to
a
do
town
that.
road.
And it's,
Really have a hard time telling them
Yeah.
they couldn't go left on a town road.
but I really don't see an issue because they're not going to want to take a left and sit forever at Sandbank. I really don't think that would be an issue.
Okay.
But, and I don't see why restricting it for one and not everybody else. It kind of makes no sense to me anyways. I don't know if you guys all agree or, okay.
Very well put.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, going back to communications, we're gonna have a preliminary discussion with Honeycomb Real Estate Partners.
Good evening. My name is Dan Garofalo with Reno Properties Group. We are the managing member of Cheshire Professional Park located at 408, 426 Highland Avenue here in Cheshire. Honeycomb is here to present a reuse of the property. And I just wanted to give, my view on what's happening with that specific property. We actually own two properties in town, 408, 426, as well as 1154 Highland. And since the pandemic, we've had a real battle with keeping the occupancy up. We get a few tenants, we lose a few tenants. We get one tenant, we lose a tenant, and it's seems to be spiraling the wrong way. And we're just here tonight to introduce you to Honeycomb, who is looking to reuse the property in a multi-family fashion. And I'll turn it over to them. Thanks.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to introduce ourselves and have a conversation, hopefully the first conversation about this, what we think is a great opportunity for the town, and certainly in keeping with the town's affordable housing plan of May 2022. My name is Louis Brown. I'm the founder and managing member of Honeycomb Real Estate Partners. I've spent the better part of the last 20 years acquiring and developing affordable housing both in and out of the state of Connecticut, over 10,000 apartments. I'm a native of Connecticut, grew up in Connecticut. And when I founded Honeycomb a year and a half ago, after 17 years running acquisitions and development for a much larger company, my business plan was to re-entrench back into this state that I grew up in, the state that I love, and to bring high quality affordable housing development to towns around the state. So with me tonight is Steve Caprio. He's our Director of Development, and he'll be speaking later about the specific property that we're talking about that Dan just introduced on Highland. But before we get to that, we wanted to show you some representative developments that we're working on here in Connecticut right now, just to give you an idea. There is, many different shapes and forms, as you know, and you see on a weekly basis in terms of development. One of the areas that we believe Honeycomb sets itself apart from other developers is we spend a lot of time thinking about the area, the town, the city that we're developing in, and try to provide a solution that's contextually relevant to both the government as well as to the public, to our neighbors, our future neighbors. So here is a 40-unit development that we actually just submitted on for site plan approval this morning in Chester, Connecticut, not too far from here. So I was in Chester this morning. If you're familiar with Chester, it's a little historic hamlet next to Deep River in Essex, and is similar to Cheshire in that it has a lot of historic homes and in the surrounding town and area. And so what we did, we were selected competitively by the owner of this property, who happens to be the diocese, the Catholic diocese. It sits on a little over 3 acre parcel where the parish rectory was, but is no longer being used. And you can see we've got 8 what are essentially larger colonial style buildings, homes, and those will house the 40 apartments. And within that, there's also a community building management, professional management office, community space for the residents. So this is an idea of kind of what we do and what our approach to development is. This is 100% affordable. It'll be affordable to those families or individuals earning 80% of area median income or less.
Can you just, I can hear you, but I don't know if it's getting picked up on the mic. Just stand a little closer to the,
Sure.
to the
Sorry.
mic. Sorry. You can take it out if you need to walk around too.
So this is, as I said, affordable to individuals and families earning 80% of area median income or less. This is Southern Middlesex County. That equates to, for a family of 4, probably $80,000+ a year or less. So it's people who are firefighters, police officers, teachers, people who work in restaurants, in stores in Chester. And Chester, not dissimilar to Cheshire, is currently well below the 10% threshold of the state's goal for affordable housing. They're hovering around just under 3%. I think Cheshire's affordable housing plan recited about 3.8%. And I know that there's other developments that have come into town since that plan was rolled out, but it's similar in percentage to Cheshire. The next development is in New Haven, proximate to the Yale Bowl and the new music center, which had been the Pilot Pen. This is on the corner of Derby and El Acraso. Obviously much different than Chester, more of an urban look. This will be 64 apartments, also 100% affordable to those earning 80% AMI or less. We've already received full site plan approval, as well as other approvals from the city, and we're currently in our closing process with the different funding sources. We hope to close this transaction later this year. And the last that we'll share with you tonight, before we talk about Highland, the Highland property, is the West Hartford Inn in West Hartford, 900 Farmington Avenue, aptly named the Camelot, which was, if you're familiar with West Hartford, this sits just outside the town center. Had been for many, many years the only hotel in the town center. And we are converting the hotel building, which is 52 keys on this side, down to 24 apartments. And then we're building 20 new apartments at a right angle to the hotel building. Also 100% affordable. And we're hoping to close in October of this year. All approvals, both state and local, have already been received. So we're in the final stages of the transaction, getting to breaking ground. So we wanted to just give you context in terms of who we are. We know this is an introductory conversation. So these are three current representative developments. So I'll pause there, yes.
Do you have an estimate of what the actual rents are going to be or range?
Sure. Yep, I can run through those. And I should back up for a second. The program that we use for this development is called the Low Income Housing Tax Credit Program. It's been around since 1986. It was actually put into place by Ronald Reagan under his Tax Reform Act. And since 1986 has actually only expanded in the breadth of the program and has always enjoyed bipartisan support, both Democrats and Republicans. And it's grown from what it was in 1986 to what it is today. And is really the backbone of most affordable housing development that gets done today. To your question on rents, when we pull up rents. That's fine. While Steve's pulling up rents, we'll come back to that question. As Dan mentioned, the property in question that Reno currently owns and operates, really from a real estate standpoint, for a variety of reasons, a few of which Dan articulated, is not currently the highest and best use. If you're familiar with where that address sits on Highland, it's directly next door to the school, to the police department. There is already a multifamily housing property next to it. If you're looking at the property, it's to the right, but really no other residential abutters. So in terms of its proximity to services, to amenities, it actually is a fantastic site for housing, different from the current use, which is mostly retail and other office uses.
Actually, directly behind that is housing. It's a detached condo. So there is housing that abuts this property.
Right, yeah, I was just speaking on Highland. Thank you though for that.
Does this property also include the doctor's office that's out front?
Yeah, that's, I think, 402 or 406. So here are the rents that, so a 30% rent, 600, that'd be someone earning 30% of area median income would be $684. The formula that is statutorily prescribed is that an individual should not be spending more than 30% of their gross income towards their housing costs. Now, we know if you just, read any newspaper article that you can't currently do that on market rate housing. You just can't find a place to rent. So in this program, we as owners are limited in what we can charge for rent, and people have to qualify based on their income. Now, the nice thing about this program is once you qualify in the first year, after that first year, your income can go up to 140% of area median income, and you are not displaced. You do not lose your housing. The idea being that prior to 1986, it was a disincentive for someone to better their economic station in life, to better their their family's financial existence. With this program, you're not penalized. You do not lose your housing for getting a better job, for getting a promotion, etc. So here are the rents. 30% earner would be paying $684. That includes utilities. One bedroom, 50% earner would be paying $1141. One bedroom, 80% earner, $1826. Here's a market rate comp of $1950, et cetera. You can go through I don't have to read them all out, but you can see as you go down, 3-bedroom, $2,500, which you just are not going to find. I won't say you won't, but it's highly unlikely you're going to find market rate housing at these numbers in the current state of the market.
You're talking about 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom in studios. There's no 3-bedroom in here.
No, these are 3-bedroom rents.
So there is 3 bedrooms in there too.
Yeah.
And what is your percentage of 3 bedrooms?
Well, we haven't gotten to that yet in terms of the specific site. We're still in a planning stage. So tonight, what we wanted to do was we wanted to introduce ourselves. We wanted to introduce ourselves relative to the specific site, and then we wanted to provide you with kind of what our design concept is for this specific site. Because we know that other groups have been in front of you and showed you or already received approval for affordable housing, either partial affordable or 100% affordable. And so we wanted to show you what our vision for this particular property is. And that's what Steve has pulled up right now. And Steve, why don't I turn it over to you? You can describe what everyone's looking at.
Hey guys, thanks again for having us tonight. So what you're looking at here, it's very conceptual. So nothing is set in stone. Things are very fluid. And we honestly, as Honeycomb, we like to get the input of planning and zoning of the community. Chester that we talked about earlier, we didn't have to have meetings prior, but we had 3 public hearings prior to us ever submitting, just to get the town's input and see kind of what they wanted to see. So just from being in Cheshire, we took one of the concepts that we have, which is a much more, it's kind of a colonial feel building. They're 3 stories. Conceptually on the site, we have laid out 2 30-unit buildings, 3 stories each. Not looking to go high rise, trying to keep it low rise. Right now, we've laid out about 60 units. The reason being that with the funding sources available, that seems to be the sweet spot for units with building costs where they are, what CHFA wants to see, and what they have called the QAP. That's kind of how they score projects. That's kind of where this site lends itself well to. So it'd be 2 separate 30-unit buildings.
How many acres those 2 buildings are on?
So these 2 buildings, this site,
What's the total acreage of the project would be?
just over 3, right?
Just over
Just
3.
over 3 acres. So currently how the building sits, or how the office building sits, you can kind of see behind here. There's 3 separate buildings. So from a kind of lot coverage, we're actually not adding much to the existing lot. Kind of just replacing what's there with newer buildings, adding some more parking and try to fit some green space in. But this is very conceptual right now. the architects will have to do their planning, see what we can fit, make sure we have appropriate parking measures in place. But contextually, we think a building of this sort fits in well. It's not too large. It kind of fits with the theme of Cheshire. And yeah, that's kind of how we see this kind of being developed. And I'd like to hear from you all thoughts or questions about.
What percentage is affordable?
So the way the QAP is currently written, it would be 80% affordable, 20% market rate. That could change. They release a new QAP this summer, but currently that is kind of how you get the most points from CHFA.
How
So
come the
you've
last
got
two
one
were,
building that's close, that is going to be close to Highland School and the PD, and the other building is going to be closer to Pondview Apartments, correct?
Yes, sir. There's currently an easement that you can kind of see that runs around the site. So it's kind of restricting to where you can place the buildings. But like I said, this is conceptual. They're just block diagrams. So that could change. It could morph a little bit.
What would your view then be from Highland School? Our view, what's Highland School's view of your building?
So this back here, other than having screening, that would be the view from Highland School. That's the back side of the building.
And what do you think will be visible from Highland School? Will be 1 story above, 2 story above?
Oh,
I know it's a 3-story building. What,
truthfully, I have not stood out there before, so I would have to look.
Does Honeycomb build them, and then does Honeycomb run the management side of things? I always look at these things. You say, okay, new building and new idea, new everything else, and that's great. I'm always worried about what it's going to look like in 10 years. And when I say look like, I mean the management, the tenants, the property management, upkeep and everything else. And does Honeycomb retain ownership and manage the property as well, or a little both, or whatever?
I'll answer this in a couple parts. We do not currently have management. However, from an ownership standpoint, the way these tax credit deals work is there's a 15-year compliance period. So you have an upper tier tax credit investor. That's a big group. PNC is doing R1. A lot of the local banks will invest. Key Bank, Liberty Bank. They'll be your tax credit investor. You're in this property for 15 years. You have a compliance period. HUD inspects every year. You're audited every year. You need to make sure that you deliver your tax credits to that tax credit investor. The whole project gets dinged financially if it falls into disrepair, if you're not getting the tax credits that you're supposed to, if it's not leased. So there's very heavy incentive for us to be a part of this community, to keep this thing in good shape. And at a minimum, you're in it for 15 years, but the affordability sits for 40. Most of the times after those 15 years, you're going to what they call resyndicate. You'd actually redevelop it again. So put a big influx of cash in it again, put tax credits back on the property because they run out after 15 years. And you'd look to kind of redevelop the property and go ahead and rehab it. So it's a very long-term hold business. It's not like market rate where, you're in it, maybe you get it leased up and you're immediately selling. It just doesn't work that way in affordable, but Lewis probably wants to add.
No, I think Steve's right, that we're long-term holders, and that's what this business is. So when we're in a community, we're staying in the community. With respect to property management, we have a very close relationship with the property management company that will be managing this and other of our Connecticut properties. This is a highly management intensive business as well. There are a lot of eyes, both in the pre-development phase as well as through the first 15 years, because this is a government program. It's overseen by the IRS, and so there's no room for error. And so you can't mess up, because if you mess up on one, it impacts your ability to do future business. So we have as much, if not more, incentive in making sure that not only it looks good on day one, but it looks good on day 15. We're funding upfront reserves at closing, and we're funding annual reserves. We're required to fund annual reserves by both the state and our tax credit investor.
And then one more thing to add. CHFA actually has very strict construction guidelines. CHFA has super strict construction guidelines. So interior finishes, exterior, soundproofing, insulation, what materials you can actually use on the outside of the building, it's very strict. It's more strict than market rate. I come from actually like hotel world, so Hilton's, Hyatt's, Marriott's. Didn't do as much market rate, but did some. This is a higher standard that we're held to. So, which is another, our construction costs are higher. Like, there's a lot of things that go into it, but the buildings are built to last. They're built to be quality inside. You can't get around it, you know, all the way down. So you have to use plywood bases for your cabinets, all plywood boxes. There's no particle board. So there's a lot of things that we have to do because these are for CHFA, these are for a tax credit program. So it makes a high quality building.
Well, go ahead.
Valid,
Go ahead,
and
Joe.
Mr. Tedesco.
So you indicated that, you know, gotta say this right. So this conceptual right now, so you don't know how many one unit, I'm sorry, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom studios. The one in Chester, you referenced that as being comparable to Cheshire. So what is the makeup of that building?
That's ones and twos.
It's ones and twos?
Yes.
So you're talking about 60 units.
Here.
Yeah, I'd really, if this does come to fruition and comes to an application, really like to see what the state says, what the police department says. That's a lot of cars. If you haven't walked the Highland property, they have signs there between certain hours. You can't take a left-hand turn because the traffic is so bad and they have a traffic light. And this is right next door to there. So, you know, I would concentrate on that also.
Sure.
To make sure that the traffic is right there. Yeah, because this is a lot of cars for that area.
We appreciate that feedback. As obviously as a part of any submission, we would have a traffic study done.
Yes, I think you said that you are having 80% of the units to be affordable. That's what's proposed or thought about, at least at this point?
It is. Steve mentioned the QAP, just to give, if you're not familiar with what that is, it's the state's qualified allocation plan. Every state in the United States has their own. Connecticut decided 2 years ago to have a 2-year qualified allocation plan that is now sunsetting. And so there'll be a new one. There's 2 different types of credits. One you apply for competitively, that's the 9% credit. And under that program, you have to have 20% of the apartment's market rate and 80% affordable.
The reason I ask is I think we've been somewhat disappointed with the affordable housing statute and such in Connecticut, which only requires 30% of apartment.
Correct, under 830G.
You know, we've commented on that, and I mean, I think that's something that would probably be important to the commission, that it was 80% as opposed to 30% in terms of affordable units.
Yeah, 830G, you're right. And I think the reason there's a disconnect between the state, no disrespect to lawmakers. However, if you're going to achieve the 10% goal, doing it at a 30% clip is not going to get you there. And so, however, there are developers that will come in and leverage 830G and that particular statute and only do 15 at 60 and 15 at 80. And that's just not going to move the needle in terms of achieving that goal.
Right. A couple other questions. One is, you said that this is resyndicated after 15 years. Does that reset the 40-year clock also?
It would. It would. That's not, you don't have to do that. And I have been involved in a number of developments that at the end of 15 years, you might do a refinance and reinvest capital into the property without going through a full tax credit resyndication. So it's really property specific. That is an option, but it's not something that you have to do.
And one last question. I think you said that, and it makes sense, you don't want people to not get a better job or not increase their income because they'll have to move out of their unit. But that does make a difference in terms of affordability, because I suppose if we're starting off with an 80% of the median income, you're talking about $80,000. When you get to 140%, you're talking about somebody making $140,000 that can continue to live in the units. And that, so I mean, after some number of years, it's really not affordable housing anymore, is it?
Well, that is a rule more than a reality, I would say. I'd say that in my experience, now this is a generalization, you're not seeing as many people actually achieving that. So it is preserving affordable housing, because you're not typically seeing people's income go up that high to 140%. So it might become more 100%, more of what you would typically think of as 80 to 100 is workforce housing. But you're typically not seeing, it's more the exception than the norm in terms of seeing someone go up to 140%.
Well, people may want to buy a home or something too, as their
That's
income
true.
goes up also, I suppose. But that's, I mean, what we've heard in other applications is that people's income is checked periodically, and if they exceed the affordable income requirements, they have to move. So this is a different program than that?
No, you have to do an annual, it's called an annual income certification every year. But within that, that individual, once they've qualified in year one, is technically allowed to go up to 140%. In year one, your first year cert is what qualifies you for the housing. But thereafter, your income is allowed to go up. But you are required to do, the owner manager is required to do an income certification every single year.
Right, but if your income goes up, you don't have to move.
No,
I mean,
you're not displaced.
You have the
no.
certification. That's, yeah. Have we ever heard that before?
Yes, rent can go up. Rent trends with AMI. So as AMI goes up, rents can go up. So the past couple of years, based on stimulus and inflation, AMIs did go up. In Hartford County, they went up about 5%.
But that's from the AMI, not from that individual getting paid, or not from that individual getting a higher salary.
Right.
Like
yeah,
just because if the person jumped from 80 to 140 grand or 130 grand, does the rent?
yeah, the rent
match
will
that?
the rent will go up as well.
And then if that person leaves and someone new comes in, does it start back over at
Yes,
ground?
it does. Yep.
So essentially, they get less assistance as they make more money.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're not getting assistance,
But the
but the rent's
is,
correct.
less than what it would normally be.
That's right.
Mr. Tedesco has the floor.
No, I appreciate.
I'm sorry, Mr. Tedesco.
Well, no, I appreciate this information. I haven't heard that in all the other applications. Anybody else? Or it's
I
not
don't
just me that slept through that portion of it.
Yeah,
I never used this though. Those other,
Pardon me?
the other applications didn't use what they're talking about using, this tax credit.
Well, I guess,
What's the official name of the?
It's called the Low Income Housing Tax Credit Program. It's overseen by CHFA, Connecticut Housing Finance.
maybe our other projects haven't used that.
So your vessel, the approval with vessel, my understanding is that was done under pursuant to 830G, but that was only, that's not a tax credit deal. That's 15% at 60 and 15% at 80.
Right,
So-
okay, I understand now. That's helpful. Thank you.
You've had one application that was also part of this program, the Housing Authority. The same
how they were gonna do it?
program that they are seeking tax credits is what the Housing Authority was looking for financing.
So do you have to get approved for that first before you move forward?
We dual track it. Otherwise it would, so what we do, if I use the example of Chester, West Hartford, New Haven, we'll go through, for Chester, as I said, we submitted for site plan approval this morning. And on a parallel path, we're working on our financing. You can't do it sequentially, you just lose too much time. So we'll be at risk.
But I mean, you can get turned down for the tax credits.
So it depends what tax credits. Under the 4%, that's as of right. And we're using 4% credits for the 3 developments that I mentioned. 9% is competitive, but you can reapply. So annually you apply. If you don't get it one year, you can apply again the next year. But yes, you could not receive them in the first year.
Like the
9%.
housing authority, right? Did they not receive it?
Yeah, that's correct. The Housing Authority did not receive their financing for Jack's Farm.
And that program, did it not? Or that project? Did it not?
Well, I mean, their permits are valid for 5 years, so another avenue that's kind of stalled.
Commissioner Todd.
So if you apply, you said you're going to build them and go for the financing at the same time, it's a risk. If you don't get that financing, do you turn around and say, well, we're not going to do affordable, we're going to do all market rent now?
No. I personally would not. We're affordable housing developers. We see that's what the opportunity here is in terms of highest and best use. So we would not personally have an interest in flipping it, and Honeycomb would not personally have an interest in flipping it to a market rate execution.
So
We
from a
wouldn't-
town standpoint, how do we protect ourselves from that to make sure that does not happen? Because again, if they don't get the
So-
financing, they got to rent it out.
So, you know, what their options are for approval and why they're here tonight, they have two paths. One would be Section 44A of the zoning regulations to amend it to fit their request. The issue with this property is your regulations require a minimum lot area of 5 acres. We only have 3 here.
Right.
So they don't qualify under your current regs. The other option is 830G. They may apply by 830G. If they have a proposal, they come in with their affordability plan, regardless if it's 44A or 830G, and they show 80% affordable, that's what's approved. So they can't turn around and say, well, we're going to do 80% market rate and only 20% affordable now. They're locked in it, should that come before the commission and the commission approve it. So
The question I have there, though, this is different from different other applications because they're going to build them while they're going for that financing.
No. No, what I meant was we're going to go through the site plan approval process.
Gotcha. So you're not going to break ground
no.
until, okay.
Yeah. No.
Crazy to do that. I didn't want to say that.
Yeah. Oh, no, I apologize.
and you're-
I misunderstood the question.
And based on that comment, your concern would be valid to say, well, you're going to go into construction and you're waiting to get your financing. Well, you know,
Yeah.
the devil on your right hand's going to say, don't worry about it.
No,
Let's
no,
do market rate today.
You're not even allowed to do that under the rules.
Gotcha.
So
So the second question I had was, some of the other projects we looked at, we really talk about public safety.
Yes.
So if you see me looking at my phone, I apologize, but the GIS up, just looking at it, and 60 units, there's going to be kids. There's no sidewalks. There's no sidewalks on Route 10. When we did East Mitchell, part of the agreement was, as a stipulation before they broke ground, put a shovel in the ground, was they work with the town to put sidewalks leading up to Route 10. I can tell you that if you did come here and you did come up with an application under affordable housing, I think they speak for a couple of people here, maybe everybody.
I think you're only allowed to ask for this. Like you can't, in this meeting, you got to be careful what
No,
you're
no, no,
saying
no,
right
no.
now.
That's what I'm saying. If they came,
Suggest.
I'm saying that I am. We would.
Consider.
I could say that we would look at
Well,
that.
Yeah,
So just
favorably.
public safety is just as important to us as it would be to you. Using Chester as an example, we sat with the marshal, the fire marshal, and members of his team a number of times. In fact, I was with him again this morning, addressing any and all concerns, because we're sprinklering 2-story buildings in Chester. Okay, I mean, we're going above and beyond because it's important to us. At the end of the day, I know all of you believe this as well. All you have is your reputation. And the moment you lose your reputation, you might as well just pack it up. And so I have no interest in doing something that's a shortcut or is in violation of anything or is endangering anybody.
Gotcha.
Just don't want to do it.
And part of our regulations, we can't, I'll say make, if the strong word, we can't make somebody do offsite improvements. So, that with the application that we had before, it was an agreement that was made with the town to do that. Am I right on that, Michael?
you're correct.
And that goes to Steve's point earlier, that we're about collaboration. We're not here to jam anything down anyone's throat or threaten 830G or anything like that. We're here because we want to have a conversation. We ultimately will want your feedback and we'll want members of the community's feedback,
No, I
be
appreciate
it the
that.
condo association or anyone else.
I appreciate that you're giving us good answers to the questions that we're asking. So appreciate that.
So it sounds so far, we've had traffic from public safety for them to consider, connectivity to consider. Is there anything else that you want to?
School buses, I mean, we always talk about that, kids being,
They'd probably walk.
Yeah, I agree with EJ. They probably walk. I mean, looking at the GIS,
That doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
borders the town property, right?
PCS.
Correct.
Maybe there's a path that goes from the kids. The property to, they're going to make it. They're going to go through the trees. maybe again, just if I were to build it, I'd probably build a path going right over to the Highland property, get the town permission to cross over. You can't get much safer than the kids not walking on Route 10.
And it's not much of a joke because a girl at Pondview Apartments, many years ago, a little girl was killed crossing Route 10 going to school. So it is serious. And
We both have kids. We appreciate it.
And to what Mr. Natale was saying, safety, 830G, one of the few things that we can deny an application for is public safety.
That's right.
If the property and the surrounding area is not safe, I'm going to say no. So, I mean, the sidewalks and the safety is absolutely paramount for more than just obvious reasons, especially since there's a school next door there. So, and a daycare across the street.
So what sort of separation is there between the school and the apartment complex to ensure that there's clear lines of distinction? You know what I mean? So like the access, I'm looking at access from one property to the next. How do you ensure that separation?
So, I mean, we're not that far along in the design process, but we would have multiple meetings where we share conceptual plans with you and get feedback. But I sitting here tonight, I can't give you a great answer other than that would be one of the things that gets built into our design program.
I'd prefer to see some sort of separation or some sort of distinction. Again, and to me, if we've got to look at it in broader buckets, it folds in under this whole safety component.
But good point, fair point.
Thank you.
Mr. Picard.
So what I see is low workforce in Cheshire. It's pretty weak. There's not a lot of new jobs that are looking for. Why Cheshire? Why bring this in? We have 70 units going in the north end. We have 300 way up north end. We have a lot of infill. What's the need? Where'd you see the need? How'd you get those numbers? Why'd you pick this town?
Well, the need is articulated in the town's affordable housing plan. And I think, there's a multitude of reasons in terms of the why. Cheshire is also proximate to other, employment hubs, if you will. It's a centralized town within the state, proximate to Hartford, proximate to New Haven. So, there's other employment merit and there's other employment opportunities, even if it's not squarely within Cheshire. But Cheshire's it's a nice community. It's a community where people want to live if they could afford to live here.
And how do you get Cheshire people to live here? Do you have any draw? What's the benefit of you coming to Cheshire? I mean, I don't see it as just dumping affordable housing in here. We do need some. We have a lot. We have a lot coming. How do you get Cheshire residents that do work here to get access to this?
So Cheshire residents, like anyone else, would be able to apply to live here. So I've had this conversation with other people, and the same question. It's a good question, and the question is why here and who's going to live here. Essentially, is what you're asking, and the answer really is you, right, or me. And it might not be you today, but it might be you 20 years ago before you had a family and a house. It might be you 20 years from now where you're looking to downsize, but you can't find somewhere affordable to live. So the answer really is it could be any of us. When we spoke in Chester, as Steve said, at the first public meeting, it was a room like this. It was standing room only. And we were there for 2.5 hours, not because we had to be, but because we wanted to be. And there was a couple that stood up. And in a room full of people, some of whom were very vocally asking the type of question that you're asking, but in a little bit of a harsher way. And this couple stood up and the gentleman said, I was a teacher in Chester my whole life. And my grown daughter has left and now she can't afford to move back here where she wants to raise her family. And my wife and I want to downsize, but we have nowhere affordable to live. And we would love to live in the apartments that we just showed you so that our daughter can come and raise her family in the house that she grew up in Chester, Connecticut. Those are stories. That's one example. I get emails every single day from people asking me when they can rent in West Hartford, when they can rent in New Haven, when they can rent in Chester. There is
And
such a demand.
How do they get in from that town? If it's like a lottery?
Oh, no,
and you have to
There's,
apply?
they would just apply.
So their chances of getting in the town that their kids want to grow up in is not going to happen.
We do. So the one thing we have to be careful of is we always have to, fair housing comes into play. However, we were told, and this is going to be double checked, but the management company that we use, they're actually a partner on the deal. They're very reputable. They have someone that checks all this compliance. We've been told that in our selection plan, we can state that current residents of Cheshire, we could say people that work in Cheshire, would have first preference. So that is what we're planning to do in Chester. And as we understand it now, it complies with fair housing. So as long as it does, we're very much in favor of doing that in every town that we go to, because we feel it's important that we're building it here for the residents here who need it. We're not necessarily, now, yes, everybody love people to move in, but there's probably a vulnerable population here who needs it. There's folks that want to do what Lewis described. So that's our goal, as long as fair housing allows us to continue to do that.
And I would love that. I mean, that's what we're looking for.
I think Lou's going to hit, and I'm going to hit on the same thing. We were told pretty much the opposite by other programs. They could not give preferential treatment to existing residents or whatever.
You can, so the big, and the reason why I didn't say it is fair housing can become a very, very painful thing. Okay. If you are in violation of fair housing. And it's the company that I worked for 17 years. I led the acquisition and development team. Our compliance, the director of compliance has said that we can have within our resident selection plan a resident preference for local residents as well as a work preference. And I've done that on other properties, but before we commit to that, and before I would commit to that in a written way, that would need to be double, triple checked. But we've explored it for Chester for the same reason that you just raised, because there's the same desire.
Would you do the same thing for the market valued homes that are in the other
market rate?
20%? Yeah, the market.
Yeah,
rate.
we would have one resident selection plan. It wouldn't differ. It's one.
But if fair housing said, no, you can't do that, with that extra 20%, would you put that?
No, because fair housing is, once you have the selection plan, you have the selection plan.
Okay, Mr. Dawson has a question. This is supposed to be like a 10-minute thing. We've gone on for a long time, so this is going to be the last question.
The question I got to ask, and I'm really curious about, is everybody seems to be coming to Cheshire for affordable housing. There must be a hot spot where the gold's hidden, but I never could find it. But why all of a sudden are the other towns all used up, or just for myself? I'm asking that question because I get asked by a lot of people in town because I'm an old man, so they all know me, So the thing is to make clear to me and people at home watching the TV, what do you do to know how many affordable housing they need in Cheshire? You're not going to come in and put something up and just let it rot, and the federal government will never let you do it anyway, because that's where your money's coming from.
Well,
which is us.
Yeah, as
all of us, you too.
That's us too. As Steve said, that's not who we are. That's not what we're building. So that's not going to happen.
No, I'm not questioning
But to
you.
answer your question about Cheshire specifically,
Yes.
As I said before, it is a very nice place to raise your family. And I think the affordable housing plan that was very thoughtfully drafted and published in 2022, put out for a lot of people that maybe weren't aware of where the affordable numbers were in Cheshire, that there's a real need here in this town. I think there was 680 apartments in order to reach that 10% goal back in 2022, according to the plan.
Yeah, but I guess my question again is, have you checked with our town planner to see what was approved that hasn't been started yet, so that you can say, well, my figures are this, but I just talked to the town planner and he says, oh, this has been approved, that's been approved.
We know of what has been approved, yes.
So you do,
yes.
You've done your homework.
And some other folks who have been before you recently. We're
Okay,
aware.
thank you.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
I think we should understand, the purpose of affordable housing is to let people from other parts of the state come and live in Cheshire or West Hartford or Trumbull or Madison. That's the purpose of it, to let people from other parts of the state who otherwise couldn't afford to live in Cheshire, they can come and live in Cheshire. To the extent that we can provide housing for for me, when I get older, don't have a job anymore, or my kids when they're starting, that's a great thing. But I don't know, I don't see how you could ever direct it specifically to people from within your town. When again, that's not what affordable housing is about. And we shouldn't be opposed to that. And I think that this commission is not opposed to that.
I appreciate that comment, and I wanted to steer away from just localizing this to Cheshire, and I think that that's a great point, though I can understand and appreciate both sides of the issue.
Okay, guys, thank you for tonight.
Thank you. We really appreciate this.
Hope you got enough information from us, and we'll be able to bring something in.
Thank you.
All right, we have an update on the DPW guidelines for public improvements, and Mr. Garland's going to lead the way. And I'm going to cut him down to 5 minutes. You going to do this quick?
I'll make it real quick. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good night. Merrick Kemet, Town Engineer. One of my charges as coming on as Town Engineer was to get the guidelines for public improvements updated. So that was one of my charges. Actually, it was my first charge, and over a year later, I'm still working on it. Our last update to the guidelines was in April 18th of the year 2000, and it was adopted by this Planning and Zoning Commission on July 24th of 2000. It's 23 years ago. Now, if we do this right in 2 weeks, and our next meeting would be July 24th. It'd be kind of funny this thing could get approved that night. But so I'm going to make this real short. I just want to go over the key points to the guidelines, which I'm sure you all read already. The the reprint that you're in front of you. One is to update to reflect current state practices and regulations. To update the material specifications, for example, we're now introducing HDPE pipe. That's allowable material use versus always using concrete. Provide better construction details and eliminate areas for interpretation. We're consolidating relevant information from other town sources, such as our town ordinance, sewer regulations. There's some points from the planning and zoning regulations, subdivision regulations, to consolidate for the public to be able to see it under one document. For example, the streetlight policy that can't be found anywhere except in the town ordinance. I doubt the public is actually reading the ordinances. Mailbox policy is another one. So that's all being implemented here. I'm providing information and the processes for the street excavation permits. How it's achieved, it can be revoked, the fees, the bonding information, things that are pretty much unknown to the public. Just putting it into one document. Providing plan requirements and construction procedures for public improvement projects, and to create a more user-friendly document. So in front of you, you'll see that there's a table of contents now. It's really broken down pretty descriptively with page numbers. So if someone's looking for a certain item, they should be able to find it. What's required under the planning for site plans, what's required, what am I looking for reviewing them, certain aspects that way. So that's it in a nutshell. I mean, I can go over in more detail on a table of contents if you want, but
Is there anything, I haven't read through it in detail. I read the first couple pages this afternoon. Is there anything that shows what state and what's town as a reg? Or is there a way to know that? That what's in here for our improvements are actually coming from the state? And then anything that's not from the state, did we go around town to see how many people are in violation of it? And maybe we should change it so that they're not in violation?
primarily everything is town. Most of the construction is referenced by the state, the Form 818. But all the policies is pretty much everything that was in the old 123 years ago is in this. Everything in our town ordinance is in this. Your regulations, bits and pieces are in this. It's all word for word. It's verbatim. It's just making it more of our clarity.
Okay.
So essentially, we're taking the guideline specifications, updating them to 2023 standards or materials and modernizations, and putting that in the book. Is there anything in here that would be considered a reduction of quality compared to the old ones, or something that would be
Complete opposite.
that, okay, everything's
There was
for the better.
There was gray areas in the old ones, missing points. It's just very clear. This is very clear. Yeah.
I know in the past there was some issues between Chespercott and Cheshire and what they say you have to do for sewers as opposed to what the town says. Has that been rectified, or who has control of that?
This has nothing to do with the state of Connecticut Public Health Code. This is not for septic systems. In fact, it's not even for sewers. It's not sewer design. It's more of, well, it is sewer design. It's telling you what types of pipes to use. What's the slope of the pipe. It's very design specific for that item of sewers, but not septic systems. So Chespercott has nothing to do with this.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I would love you to take a look at it, and then maybe we can recircle back in a couple weeks and have your questions ready.
Perfect.
Thank
Yeah.
you for the homework.
Well, you're most welcome.
I think, honestly, September, we meet July 24th,
Correct.
and then we don't meet again until
September.
September. So I think either the first or second meeting in September, we should, or maybe we could submit, if we do go through this, we could submit our questions in advance to Mr. Glidden, and then he can forward them to you, and then we can hit the ground running.
I'm not pushing this however long it takes.
No, I think this is a great idea because things are sometimes a little loosey-goosey, and this'll it'll make it easier for all parties to understand. It'll make it easier for you to do your job and for the developer to understand what you are going to require from him. So I think it's a good thing.
Exactly. And this is, for public improvements. This is not private development work. This is all for public improvements. And then down the road, if you wanted to adopt something different for the private sector, you could always reference the public book. That would be that simple.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Okay. Number 4 is next 724, new business. We hear that on 724?
Yep.
Didn't we approve something on Lexington Court for a while ago?
We did a while ago, yeah.
This had nothing to do with it?
No, this is
What is
another
this one?
It's a rear lot access. It was approved by the Wetlands Commission. They yet to come here. It's been lingering for a while.
Okay.
This goes back probably about 10 years so far.
Because I remember approving something like on Lexington, just like this.
Yeah.
Is Mountain Road going to be out of wetlands by the time we have our next meeting?
Yes.
All right. Anything else come before?
Just
No.
one
Motion
quick,
adjourned?
one
Oh,
quick
sorry.
thing, 30 seconds. I gave you I'm sorry to be the, I gave you a copy of the RFP for the Plan of Conservation Development update. I want to issue this pending the council approval tomorrow, next Monday. If you can look at section 1 for the project overview, and also in section 2 and 4, if you have any input, if you can email that to me by Friday of this week, so I can incorporate it before this goes out, that would be appreciative. So it just goes over the scope of what we're doing and I want to make sure that everyone agrees what's going in there, because when this goes out, we want to try to get the best, highest quality firms to work on this, because this is a big project.
Okay, great. Now I'll take Mr. Picado's motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by everybody. Pick somebody. Yeah. Aye.